and he will come conquering. And in his conquest,
Who is giving this permission to take peace from the earth?
there's going to be a sense of peace and safety.
Because it says right here in Revelation 6, verses 3 and 4, the writer was permitted to take peace. So we need to know the character of the Lord as the sovereign God who allows this.
A lot of deceiving. He's going to get to the point of saying the land belongs to Israel. We're going to move into the second seal. The second seal that we find in Revelation chapter 6, verses 3 to 4. And just to give a little bit of context of our last session, we were talking about the first seal. And we were talking about that the rider on the first seal on the white horse is the Antichrist. And the second seal obviously is entirely connected to this Antichrist. The first four seals are mainly carried out by human beings, by persons.
Right.
There's a person who's going to be the rider. We have the second seal, which is war between men. Then we're going to see the third and fourth seal, which are carried or inflicted on men. Seal number 5, it's like a transition. And from the sixth seal till the end, it's pretty much a lot of cosmic signs or the judgments of God over the earth and over men specifically, right?
So the seals are released by Jesus in his sovereignty. And we need to understand this very, very good, because once we enter into these set of events, our heart needs to be so clear of the character of the Lord, because he is sovereign, and he in his sovereignty is going to allow these to happen, is going to give authority to this writer.
Yeah, we're going to read it in a moment.
Yes, that God is still sovereign,
right,
in the midst of all that is going to take place.
So I'm going to put on the screen the graphic that we used, I think, 2 sessions ago, of the timeline. When is the first seal and the second seal happening? Remember, there's different perspectives, there's different ideas, there's different ways of seeing the timeline, but according to what we're studying in this online training, we believe that the first seal should happen at the beginning of it could happen at the beginning of the last week of Daniel, 70th week, or in the middle. One of those two, we don't really know. That's what we believe in our timeline. We're doing them in our timeline. We're placing the first seal in the first half of the whole 7 years. So let's move on to the verses and let's read about the second seal, verse 3 and 4, and from Revelation chapter 6, and says, when he opened the second seal, I heard the second living creature saying, come and see. This is important.
Yeah, this is very important, because this word is repeated also in the first seal. Come and behold, come. So this is an invitation, because we have to pay attention, and we love studying word by word, because we need to know the context. And the word come is saying, come here, I'm going to show you something. Come near me, I'm going to show you what's going to take place. And he's invited into this nearness because of all that's going to be released on the earth. And it says, come, and out came another horse. This is the ESV. Bright red. Its rider was permitted to take peace from the earth, so that people should slay one another, and he was given a great sword. Can you read your version?
This one says, another horse, fiery red, went out. It was granted to the one who sat on it to take peace from the earth, and that people should kill one another. And there was given to him a great sword.
I just love the words in yours and in mine, and it says permitted. Yours says granted. So meaning, who is giving this permission to take peace from the earth and for this violence to happen between humans?
We just need to go to chapter 5. It says that the Lamb was the one who was opening the seals. He is the one granting permission.
Yes.
So if we want to summarize these 2 verses, the summary would be that the second seal describes a rider on a red horse who is permitted, who is allowed to take peace from the earth.
And like you said, the Lamb of God is opening the seals. And I want to read Revelation 1:18 because here we go back to why the Lamb is permitted to give this authority. And it says, I am the living one. I died. This is Jesus speaking to John. But look, I am alive forever and ever. And I hold the keys of death and the grave. So he has the key of authority. He alone has the authority
To give it.
to give authority to someone else, to allow the Antichrist to execute this kind of things. He's given the authority because it says right here in Revelation 6, verses 3 and 4, the writer was permitted to take peace. So we need to know the character of the Lord as the sovereign God who allows this.
Yeah, so the order of events is he's allowed to take peace, and at least this version says that it was given. So it is allowed, and then it is given a great sword.
Yeah.
So that men could kill each other, representing war, bloodshed, people killing people. That's the representation of this second seal.
So there's two things happening. Peace is taken.
It's taken
and
away.
then
Yeah.
the sword is given.
Yeah. That's just... So now the question is, what peace is being taken from the earth? That's why we need to understand the first seal. So the first seal, before we started studying this in a deeper way, because we have been studying for many years, but I think every time that we read the same verses, he gives us more understanding and more understanding and more revelation. And many times we believe or think of the first seal, the Antichrist, to be a super nice guy. Everyone's going to love. Everyone's going to be, this is it. This is the leader that we need in the world. And everyone's going to be in favor of him. And it's going to be such a charismatic person that he's going to bring peace to the earth. And everything is going to be all right. But if we go and read, maybe you have it in your version. Let's read again how this person, this Antichrist, is going to show up in the first seal as he shows up for the first time. And that's Revelation 6, verse 1.
Yeah. So Revelation 6, verse 1 says, Now I watched when the Lamb opened one of the seven seals, and I heard one of the four living creatures say with a voice like thunder, Come. And I looked, and behold, a white horse. And its rider had a bow, and a crown was given to him, and he came out conquering and to conquer.
So when he shows up the first time, it says in this version that he's going to come out conquering and to conquer. So there's a dual aspect in here. He's not coming just a super nice person, super charismatic, super peaceful. It's very clear that he's coming out conquering. This is a man who will have a military position. He's going to be super smart in his strategies, how to attack, how to invade, how to create conflict. And he will come conquering. And in his conquest, there's going to be a sense of peace and safety. Yeah. After the conquest, after he comes with all these ideas and strategies and threats and wars, there's going to be a moment when there's going to be peace after all of this. And the people is going to feel safe. That's why the second seal is a taking away from that false peace. Yeah. And there's a couple of verses that I want to read.
First Thessalonians chapter 5. Verse 3, and it says, and this is verses that go in hand with what we're talking about. First Thessalonians 5, verse 3, while people are saying there is peace and security.
So, first seal, there's finally peace after this guy is conquering.
Then sudden destruction will come upon them as labor pains come upon a pregnant woman, and they will not escape. So we're seeing the first seal, peace and security, and then peace is taken away, second seal, and the sudden destruction happens.
That's why in our timeline, if you go back into our older sessions, and in Matthew chapter 24, we see how Jesus is laying out all the birth pains, and they have certain order that correlate to this. They correlate to the book of Revelation, and it's so evident. There's going to be peace and then sudden destruction as the labor pains before that great tribulation, which is the last 3.5 years.
Yes.
They're gonna the event that leads to the last 3.5 years. It's called the abomination of desolation. The abomination that leads to desolation. We're gonna study about that in later in a different session. But 1 Thessalonians 5:3, it says that sudden destruction will come upon them. This is talking about bloodshed. It is talking about wars. It's talking about people killing people. Now, how is that going to happen? Why is it going to happen? Or in the spirit, what's happening? Because we're reading here that the peace will be taken away. It's going to be removed. And I want to read from 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 6. And I want to read it from the CSB. And it says in this version, I'm going to read from the 5. I'm going to read from verse 5. Don't you remember that when I was still with you, I used to tell you about these things? If you go up in the chapter, the title of the chapter is The Man of Lawlessness. Talking about the man of sin. It's talking about the Antichrist. And we see here in verse 6, it says, and you know what currently restrains him. Talking about the man of lawlessness. So that he will be revealed in his time. Verse 7, for the mystery of the lawlessness is already at work, talking about the spirit of the Antichrist, that it's already at work. But the one now restraining will do so until he's out of the way. Verse 8, and then after the one who's restraining,
removes that restraint,
the one who right now has his hands not allowing men to go all out crazy. Says verse 8, and then the lawless one will be revealed. After he takes his hands, verse 8, the lawless one, the Antichrist, the person, will be revealed. The Lord Jesus will destroy him with the breath of his mouth and will bring him to nothing at the appearance of his coming. So the seal number 2, when it says that peace will be taken after that false peace that the Antichrist establishes on earth, is going to be because Jesus is going to be like, okay,
it's time.
It's time. Do what you really want to do. Act in flesh and just kill each other.
And this is why he's talking about that he was given that great sword. Is this kind of depraved violence that the earth has never seen before. Like in the days of Noah, is going to be this atrocious violence, people killing each other, men's of heart are going to fail from fear, and that's when the war breaks. Bloodshedding will cover the earth. And this form of peace is being taken from the earth. And that's why then the sword immediately, sudden destruction
It's
comes.
like how Romans 1, when we were doing this session in Spanish, you brought out Romans 1:26 that says, for this reason God delivered them over to disgraceful passions. There's a point in humans that Jesus will be like, I'm going to deliver you to your passions. He's allowing, he's permitting. That's the word that we need to keep reminding you.
This is like the days of Noah. It reminds me of like wickedness. Got to this point of magnitude. And then the flood came. So sudden destruction comes. And then, but this is after this peace is going to be removed from earth, which is a false peace. But it creates this scenario for war.
And just to finish, if you want to go deeper in understanding this seal in specific, well, the whole timeline, we advise you to read Ezekiel chapter 38
and 39.
Ezekiel chapter 39, Daniel chapter 9, Daniel chapter 10. Because in Ezekiel 38 and 39, it's talking about the moment when Israel is going to feel so safe. They're going to be dwelling in safety, feeling secure, and they're going to be completely relaxed. And that's when the men of lawlessness come, when the Antichrist will attack and invade Jerusalem, and the abomination that causes desolation will happen. So Ezekiel 38 and 39 talks about that moment when they're going to be saying peace and safety. Before we finish, I want to read Daniel chapter 9, verse 27. And it says, he will make, talking about the Antichrist, because if you go to verse 20, the title of that section is the 70 weeks of years. And then verse 27 is talking about the beginning of that last week. He will make a firm covenant. Another version says he will confirm the covenant with many for 1 week, 7 years. If you want to understand why are we talking about that a week is 7 years, you have to read the entirety of the book of Daniel. But in the middle of the week, 3.5 years, he will put a stop to sacrifice and offering. And the abomination of desolation will be on a wing of the temple until the decreed destruction is poured out on the desolator. So we were studying a little bit about the covenant that Daniel is talking in here. And if you read the entirety of the book of Daniel, if you go to read some commentaries and scholars, you will see that the word covenant throughout the book of Daniel is always referring to the Abrahamic covenant. God given Abraham the covenant that the land belongs to them. The promised land is of them, belongs to them.
So he's going to confirm this covenant.
He's going to, the Antichrist will confirm that covenant. Also, also this word covenant here could mean that the Antichrist is going to make a peace treaty with different nations, which is also an option. But if we want to stick to the word, to the whole context of the book of Daniel, this is talking about that the Antichrist, the one who's coming, conquering, creating a sense of false peace, is going to be due to confirming the pact of God and Abraham. That means that he's going to basically, with threats and wars and a lot of deceiving, he's going to get to the point of saying the land belongs to Israel. The covenant is real. I respect the covenant.
And that's going to create a
sense of peace, safety.
Peace, and it's going to create, okay, this man is wanting this, so let's open the doors.
Ezekiel 38 and 39. They're going to be like, oh, finally, we were at peace. And as this happens, that the borders are going to be open for that man to be able to come. He's confirming the pact till the point, because his goal will always be, I want to conquer Jerusalem. That's the main point.
Yes.
As he gets closer to Jerusalem, the second seal will happen. Peace will be taken away, and the man of lawlessness is going to show who he really is.
Yes. And it says, I'm going to read it in my version, then he shall confirm a covenant with many for 1 week. But in the middle of the week, he shall bring an end to sacrifice and offering, and on the wing of abominations shall be one who makes desolate, even until the consummation which is determined is poured out on the desolate.
Wow.
So with this, we just want to give you more context, more verses, more Bible, so that you can go back and study it on your own and ask for the Spirit to give you understanding of these passages. We really want you to remember that as we are studying the events, the seals, all the judgments, we want to point you to Christ. We want to point you to the character of the Lord, because our desire is that you know more of Jesus, but also know the timeline, know what's going to take place, and be understanding of the times. But we want to really encourage you to ask the Holy Spirit for revelation, for understanding, so that the character of Jesus can be confirmed in your heart. And when you see all these things happen, when you encounter more of these and you get more revelation, your heart can be affirmed in the character of the one who is the judge, who executes judgment, and who has all the authority.